times whilst on board this service. Also as well, it is time mandatory to wear a face mask or a face covering unless exempt due to medical conditions. So
every week some vomit. It's not usually like this. Hello and welcome to Bimbleism. I, as always, am your resident Bimblist, Kieran, and today's Bimble starts here on Blackpool Promenade. Beneath this, the big BT herself, the Blackpool Tower. And we're off on a Bimble north, not towards the pleasure beach and all the fun stuff down there, no, that way to all the geeky stuff. So let's Bimble.
This time, it's getting hard for me to think. It's getting hard, so then I drink and spend the next days feeling sorry. And I do it every single time. I know you're cruel just to be kind, but it's the doubt that makes me worry. And even though I say this every single day, this is the last time from today, but I still love you anyway. I've been on the brink of something silly, but if you think then I am willing.
This is the cabin lift, and according to my big book of Bimbles, it was built in 1930 and it's grade 2 listed. It takes people from down here on the promenade to something called Uncle Tom's Cabin. It's designated to be restored soon, so we might be able to have a ride in it at some point. And over here, this actually hasn't always been a go-karting circuit. It used to actually be the boating pool. And if you remember back in 2020, before the days of COVID, we had something called Storm Dennis. And this pool filled right the way back up with seawater. I've seen the pictures online, it was quite stunning. But we haven't got time for go-karting today. We're bimbling. Let's bimble.
I have cried and looked at you for a reaction, and even though anyway.
We're just coming into Cleveleys. Hopefully the wind isn't too terrible on my new microphone. It's rather blustery today. And we're headed into the wind, which is never fun. But at least we'll have the wind behind us on our way back. You got to look at the positives. We're about to enter Cleveleys, which is your nan's favourite seaside town. It's less busy than Blackpool. The ice cream's a bit cheaper. There's less arcades. And all the cafes do something called butter pie. And giant desserts, massive cakes, eclairs as long as your arm. And it also has a few interesting little objets d'art, which we'll park up and have a look at. So this is our first piece of objet d'art, and according to my big book of Bimbles, it's a collection of sculptures known as the Mystic Coast, and it goes along with an accompanying children's book, so you can take your kids all the way down Cleveleys beach, reading them a story and showing them some sculptures. If you time your Bimble better than I have, you can come at low tide. I've come in between two tides. And just beyond where the sea is now is something called a honeycomb worm reef, which sounds disgusting. I certainly won't be having that for my breakfast. Beyond that is a petrified forest. That means you'll see some mouldy old black tree stumps where a forest was. Which brings us on to Singleton-Thorpe. Legend has it there was a town further that way even than Cleveleys called Singleton-Thorpe, and what's believed to have happened is a bog quake. Now that's not what you think it is. That's like an earthquake for peat bogs. It's not what happens after you have mushy peas. And the bog quake happened and the land around it all collapsed and the sea came in. And it's believed that the people from Singleton-Thorpe fled 7 miles inland to a place called Singleton, named it Singleton. It's actually listed in the Doomsday Book, Singleton-Thorpe, and it's listed as having a shingle beach. Now, Cleveleys, as you can see, doesn't have a shingle beach, but Rossall, which is where we're off to now, does have a shingle beach. It's been said that at really, really low tides, you know, below chart datum, you can see A-frames from buildings in the sand. Although I haven't seen any pictures of that, so I'm going to take that with a massive pinch of sea salt. Well, that's enough of the mythical. Let's engage in the tangible. Let's bimble.
Single day. This is the last time from today, but I still love you anyway. But I still love you anyway. But I still love you anyway. But I still love you anyway.
This big Harry Potterish looking building behind me is Rossall School, and it's a boarding school, but it hasn't always been. Before then It was Rossall Hall, and it was owned by a man called Sir Peter Hesker Fleetwood. You'll hear more about him later on. And he rented it to the school for £7,000 for 21 years. And it's been a boarding school ever since. It's affectionately nicknamed the Eton of the North. It does look posh. We're just coming up to something called Rossall Point, and it's the point where the coast stops going north and suddenly cuts east, and suddenly you see all of Morecambe Bay. I can see the fabulous Rossall Point Tower. Now, before the days of COVID, you were allowed up to the top of there, and there was a lovely gentleman who would let you have a go on his binoculars. But I'm guessing that gentleman's not there anymore, because we can't all touch the same binoculars. We've all got to have our own binoculars now. I can also see the Shingle Beach. Maybe the legend is true.
I made a bold decision, no different from the time before. Brimming with the sun's condition, swept overboard. I'm with the wind's incision, cutting through, I'm overjoyed. Flowing with the storm's collision, the perfect choice. Moods can be lifted, the brighter the day. You take the blue skies and I'll take the grey. If it's up to the weather, you know that I surely would say she loves them. You can love a woman, that's okay. You can love the sun in every way. You can love the breeze and blow away. But she loves the rain.
Bet you thought you were going to get away with it, didn't you? I'd just find lighthouses. Wherever I go, they appear. Fleetwood has 3 lighthouses. This one is Beach Lighthouse, or Lower Light. It's one of 2 lighthouses that were commissioned by Sir Peter Hesker Fleetwood. Remember him from Rossall School? The same guy. And it's the lower of the 2. Let's go and have a look at the big tall lad over there.
She loves the rain. It's made in perfect measures, dripping from a seal black sky.
This is Pharaoh's Lighthouse. It's 28 metres tall, and it sits here in the middle of the tram tracks, getting towards the town centre of Fleetwood. So why do we need a lighthouse so far away from the little lighthouse we've already got on the seafront? Well, it's exactly the same reason as the 4 lighthouses on the Wyre Way. If you get these 2 lighthouses lined up, it means that you're in the right channel and you won't hit any of the sandbanks going into Fleetwood Port. Up until 1970, both these lighthouses would have been painted red and white, you know, in that classic stripy pattern, which I sort of wish they still were, but they do look rather striking in their sandstone. Mr. Hesker would be proud. I think we should go and say hello to him, because he's only just round the corner. Let's go and have a look.
Soaking up this perfect treasure, I know it's right. Moods can be lifted.
This is your man, Sir Peter Hesker Fleetwood. obviously like rabbits. You'll be glad to know we can't look at the third lighthouse. It's a rickety iron structure in the middle of the Wyre estuary. It's the sort of same design as the piers in Blackpool. And the top of it fell off and fell into the sea. And these GoPro cameras are not good enough to see far out to sea where it is. I need some kind of telephoto lens. So you've got off scot-free. So just count yourself lucky. It's only 2 lighthouses today.
No, it's right. Moods can be lifted the brighter the day. Take the blue skies and I'll take the grey. It's up to the weather, you know that I surely would say. She loves the. You can love the warm, that's okay. You can love the sun in every way. You can love.
This is Fleetwood Museum. And it's Fleetwood's oldest building. And according to my big Bimble book, it was built in 1836 and it was commissioned by, you've guessed it, Sir Peter Hesketh Fleetwood. From 1889 until 1974 it was used as Fleetwood's town hall. But now it's the Maritime Museum. It tells you all the history of the maritime past of Fleetwood, of which there's quite a bit. We're going to have a look at some of that past in a minute, but first I need to go to the Asda and get a meal deal, chicken and bacon obviously.
The breeze and blow away. She loves the rain. She loves the rain.
Well, I'm sat here post meal deal, went for the chicken and bacon. It's the only choice. And I have to say that it's a bit of an improvement on last week's. I'd give it a good 3.5. So what were the differences? Well, it was beechwood smoked again. I still wasn't tasting the smoke, but the choice of mayonnaise was on point. The bread was soft. It's a good 3.5. To accompany it, I went for salt and vinegar squares. Unlike the Morrisons, there was no pork pies to be had. I coupled that with a Coca-Cola. Decided to go for a caffeine-y treat. As you can see, the sun is out. The guns are out. I've just put on suntan lotion. You've got to remember to put on your suntan lotion. And I think it's time that we got bimbling again. Lunch break over. This is Fleetwood Port, and up until 2010 there were regular ferry crossings from here to Northern Ireland, Larne to be exact, or Larne, how do you say it? There were 3 ships that did the service and they were called the Three Sisters, and according to my big Bimble book they were called Puma, Bison and Buffalo. After they stopped having the ferry service to Northern Ireland, those ships were sold off to a Russian company who used them to send things between Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And then they were briefly used during the Winter Olympics in Russia, where they were used to ferry people and goods to all the different locations of the Winter Olympics. And then straight away after that, they were sent to the breakers yard. If you've ever watched the programme Phoenix Nights, that's Peter Kay in his boat going past now. If you've ever watched the TV series Phoenix Nights, you may have seen the episode where they go on a booze cruise to France and they come back to Dover Well, Dover wasn't Dover really. Dover was Fleetwood Port. Although you wouldn't recognise it now because the car park's overgrown and it's really just like a bit of waste ground now. But the sign's still there. EXIT. Excite.
Breeze and blow away, but she loves the rain. She loves that. 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 She loves the rain.
Well, the bridge is closed. I think this is all a ruse to get me to go into Freeport, which is the retail park. I mean, I was already tempted. They've got a mountain warehouse. I love that place. I'm hoping this is a shortcut. It's probably not. I must resist the temptation. We really must Bimble. There's so many other things to see. But I really do need a light for the inside of my tent. I lost my original one. It was a belter. Yeah, it's too busy in there anyway. Too full of normies. Not for me. No. Not on a Saturday anyway. The kind of place that I'd duck into on a Wednesday when no one's about. I needed to go in Sports Direct as well. It's very, very tempting. Well, it wasn't a shortcut. No. It's turned into a long cut. It knows what it's doing. It's trying to keep me in here. Thinks it's got me hemmed in. Thinks I'm going to go in Mountain Warehouse and buy some stuff. And I'm not. No. I'll wait for another day. I can do without the lamp. I'll just use the lights off my bike. It's fine. It stinks round here. There is still some fishermen that fish, and it's still a place that brings fish even if it's not from the seas of the UK. It's still a centre for fish. It really does stink round here. Like a tramp's crotch.
Washed in clean by a riverside. They told you the news.
I'm off on foot, a leg bimble, because I want to see some shipwrecks. Well, they're not quite shipwrecks, they're not ships that ran aground. They're actually ships that were dumped here. Oddly, that the government paid people to scrap. And the way that they scrapped it was to dump it here at the side of the Wyre. Unfortunately, looks like the new shoes are going to get soaked again through the water. Every week I do this. Where are you going, Kieran? Paddling. So I'm here in a very soggy part of the world, looking at some old knackered ships. And what's odd about it is that the government paid people to scrap these ships. And it's because of something called the Cod Wars. Iceland, not the supermarket, the place, He's well known for Icelandic cod. And they changed the rules in the 1970s. It used to be that you weren't allowed to fish within 4 nautical miles of Iceland. But they upped it to 12 miles. Obviously so they could catch the fish and they could sell it. But British fishermen were up in arms, obviously, because whole communities like the one here at Fleetwood were built up around catching those cods. It escalated so much that the Royal Navy actually had to escort British ships in and out of the Icelandic waters. And Iceland actually threatened to leave NATO. Britain protested twice and were beat twice, and Iceland got their way. Rightly or wrongly so. But it meant a lot of fishermen here in Fleetwood had to scrap their boats and get a subsidy from the government, and that's where these boats came from. They were dumped here.
Kept so cold in the blackest tide. If only you knew. I've heard what they've said, ignored what I read, and looked to the bright side. So here's to the bad times, forgotten in good lights. I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I'll take off my shoes and dance to the good news. Broken smiles, no, they won't turn it round. Smiles, no, they won't turn it round. So take off your shoes and dance to the good news. Left too long in the passing time. You know what you know to be true. Dim lit scenes of a better life. Spoken in loud tones to you. Well, I've heard what they've said, ignored what I read, and looked to the bright side. So here's to the bad times.
This is the River Wyre, and we've already had a paddle in it today, looking at some shipwrecks. But it's a fabulous river. It's actually the only river in Lancashire that starts in Lancashire and ends in Lancashire. If you think about the River Ribble, that starts in Yorkshire, or the River Lune, that starts in Cumbria. And it's 28 miles long. And apparently the name Wyre comes from a Celtic word meaning winding river, obviously. But it's also where we get the word weir from. It's the same origin of the word. If I look in my big book of Bimbles, it says it starts in the Forest of Bowland, and it's the confluence of the Tarn Brook Wyre and the Marshore Wyre. The more we know. Today in this blistering sun, it reminds me of some kind of bayou in Florida, somewhere like that.
Dance to the good news. So here's to the bad times, forgotten in good lives. I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I'll take off
So we're about to make a crossing over the River Wyre. And it's our first crossing, of which there will be 2. This is the rubbish crossing. The annoying one with the traffic. But fear not, Bimblers. There'll be a much more exciting crossing on the way back, I'm just saying. We just passed through the town of Singleton, where they retreated to. Or so the legend says. And we're over. Our first crossing.
Big plans are easiest to make. Aim for the stars, it's yours, just wait. You do your best along the way. But it's those arms that told me I don't care if it's yours or mine. Without you, it's just a waste of time. You showed me.
Bimblers. The sign just after that bridge said 4 miles. That was not 4 miles. Question for the comment section. Are road signs as you travel or as the crow flies? That was definitely as the crow flies. Didn't realise I have to go around, you know, farmers' fields, factories, that kind of thing. Arduous. The side of the road was terrible. I nearly lost you for a minute. All the cameras nearly went flying. And of course, anyone driving a BMW does not care about that. But we're here at the fabulous Knott End, which is a lovely place. Nothing much to speak of. If you like the marshlands of the Morecambe Bay area, you will love Knott End. But more importantly, if you like me, and you like a cheeky go on a boat, you are gonna love this next bit. I did this for you boat lovers. This is Fleetwood Ferry, and it costs £2 plus 50p if you've got a bike.
Got a lot stayed up for a round trip, so we'll have to come back for the rest of you, okay?
You showed me from the start. Such inspirations need a heart to bring you round. It could be ours. Big aspirations need a heart to hold you down. From the start, such inspirations need a heart to bring you round. It could be ours. Big aspirations need a heart to hold you down.
What's the wearing the mask for? I don't need to do that. Set that off. Sweating. What a journey. I think I've earned an ice cream, you know. Was it worth it? Was it worth it to go all that way down the 4 miles to go on a little boat with a load of other people? Yes. That is the level of nerd you're dealing with here. It gets to this time of the week, And I'm absolutely caked in salt. I'm like one of them Himalayan salt lamps, just glowing. Trying to find an ice cream stall that takes cards, or a cash machine, one of the two. The two things never go hand in hand. The need for cash and the cash machine are never in the same place. Plain sailing all the way back to Blackpool North. We're on Easy Street. Probably get to Blackpool North and found that all the trains have been stopped. We'll have to ride to Preston. It's not something I haven't done before, but just not after such a gargantuan Bimble. See if this place will take cards. It's got an orange thing in the window which usually says no cards. Yeah, cash only. The tide's nearly all the way out now. We could go and look at some shipwrecks, but no, let's not circle round on ourselves. I mean, really I should have had some drone shots, but I'd need to buy a drone to do that. Some mad drone shots and some dubstep music. You know the score. Well, Bimblers, I don't think an ice cream's going to happen. I think we're out of luck. I'll have to have one when I get home. But we've had a fantastic Bimble, if I do say so myself. What have we seen, Bimblers? Well, we've seen the big Blackpool Tower. We've seen Cabin Lift. We've seen some fabulous sculptures at Cleveleys. Rossall School. Rossall Point. The Maritime Museum. Fleetwood Port. Some shipwrecks. A bayou that looked like it was in Florida. A very, very long road. And we had to go on a boat. You can't say any fairer than that, really, can you? So I guess all that's left to say is, if you've enjoyed my Bimble adventure, why not consider subscribing? And if you'd like to know next time I go on a Bimble adventure, why don't you press the bell icon? Thumbs ups are always appreciated. And until next time, happy bimbling. See you later.
Imagination's never my thing, though it's everything it seems. To imagine two is always better. To imagine you is always better.